Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and welcome to a little tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. And today we are talking about the possibility that Antonio Brown and the New England Patriots have been in collusion. This was all a setup from the beginning, and both sides ultimately got what they wanted. Is it a possibility? Is it nothing more than a crazy conspiracy theory that people want to believe that the Patriots are cheating once again because it makes them feel better or whatever? We're going to go through all of that and just go through this whole crazy turn of events that this Antonio Brown saga has taken on. So, just over the course of the last week, this has been wild. So we look at the signs here, and they're all there. And I'm normally not on the Patriots are cheaters bandwagon. But, let's just take a look at what we know. What we know as fact, and try to put the pieces together. We know for a fact that the Patriots were one of the teams interested in trading for Antonio Brown when he was in Pittsburgh, and when they were determined that they were going to trade Antonio Brown. We know that the Patriots were one of the teams interested because it was something that was posted by Brown himself, talking with his agent Drew Rosenhaus. Then they were talking about possible teams and teams that they've talked to, and the Patriots were among those teams. So we know right there that, going all the way back there, that the Patriots had been in contact with Brown and that they were interested in having him. Now, obviously, that's not a smoking gun. I mean, you could have been interested in Antonio Brown back then. He happens to become a free agent. You're still interested in him. You pick him up. So, that's not a smoking gun or anything. But here's where we get into the beef of this theory. We also know that Antonio Brown himself said during that time when he was waiting to be traded from Pittsburgh that if he would not find a team to play by his rules, he would retire because he does not need the game of football. He's made enough money. He's proved himself. He doesn't need the game of football. And the term play by his rules, of course, referred to restructuring his current contract that he had agreed to with the Steelers. He wanted more guaranteed money. He wanted more overall money. And, he even said as much as I think it was in an Instagram Live thing during that whole period where he said, if y'all ain't got guaranteed money, then don't call me because I'm done playing for unguaranteed money. So we know that. And when we go into it, Antonio Brown signed with the Raiders. He got everything he wanted. But the antics not only continued, they took a turn for the even worse. And you would think that after Antonio Brown got that money, that we would see more of what he did. Like, I'll give him credit, and full disclosure, I'm a Steelers fan, is that for most of his tenure in Pittsburgh, he was head down, hardworking, and, I kind of figured, he got what he wanted, that, we'd see that Antonio Brown again. He would, set out to prove that he was worth taking the chance on, and he'd set out to prove the Steelers wrong and stick it to anyone who doubted him and all that. But what ended up happening was not that. In fact, he never even played a game with the Raiders. And so we end up getting to the point where he's released by the Raiders. And, basically foregoing all of those guaranteed millions of dollars the signing bonuses, everything is all being taken away because of failures to commit to contractual obligations as far as showing up to meetings and all sorts of other conduct detrimental to the team, all that. So he does all that, and after a few months earlier, him saying that he doesn't want to mess with non-guaranteed money, he wants a long-term deal with guaranteed money, he ends up signing with New England on a $15 million deal with only $10 million guaranteed. Whereas in Oakland, I believe he had 30-some million guaranteed over 3 years. So the question is, what changed? What changed Brown's feelings of wanting to go from having a long-term deal with guaranteed money to playing on a one-year deal with $10 million guaranteed? So what changed? We also know that after Antonio Brown was released, mere hours after he was a free agent, New England signed him. And, it's not unlike New England to take a chance on a guy like Brown. And, you look at their history. You look at the chances they've taken. You look at the LeGarrette Blunts. You look at the Randy Mosses. His career was thought to have been over before he got to New England. It was his reputation around the league was terrible at that time. You look at drafting a guy like Aaron Hernandez that many NFL teams had taken off of their draft boards because, there were plenty of red flags there. The Patriots took a chance on him. You look at Dante Stallworth, who was convicted of manslaughter, driving drunk. And once he was released from prison, the New England Patriots took a chance on the guy. So you look at it, the signs are there that they're willing to take a chance on a guy. But when it comes just shortly after the word is made official that Antonio Brown has been released, just shortly after the time when he was allowed to talk with NFL teams, he gets signed to the Patriots. And, it's hard to believe that in a situation like that, it would be worked out so quickly. Now, it's completely possible this was all a coincidence. It's possible Brown and the Patriots were in talks when he was in Pittsburgh. The Patriots didn't want to restructure his deal, so they passed. And then when that whole situation went awry and he became available, they took a chance on him. And that wouldn't be unlike New England. They've done it before. I'm sure they'll do it again. And, I think that's probably the most likely thing that happened, if we're being realistic about things. I think it's most likely that, the Patriots knew they wanted Brown. For one, Pittsburgh, I'm sure, did not ideally want to deal him to New England to begin with, being that, they're the top team in the AFC along with the Chiefs and all that. You wouldn't want to trade Brown to a team that could directly be in your path of getting to the Super Bowl. So that's another thing to take into consideration. But it's completely possible and probably likely that Brown's whole situation went the way it did. He became available and the Patriots decided, you know what, we'll take a chance on the guy, he's worth it. And, I forgot to mention Josh Gordon. I mean, he's playing on there right now. He's been reinstated on the New England Patriots. So the signs are there. But, one has to wonder, is it possible? Is it even a smidge, just a small percentage possible that the Patriots talked to Antonio Brown months ago. They agreed that Antonio would, once he got traded to the Raiders, he would act the way he did, and he would cause the ruckus that he did until he was released. So that then the Patriots could swoop in and give him the contract that they gave him, while possibly also sending in some money underneath the table. Maybe more than what the Raiders would have ended up paying him. And, you know, we don't hear about stuff like that often, but, you know, is it possible that something like that could happen? Of course it's possible. Of course it is. If you don't think, and this isn't just exclusive to the Patriots, because there's been more situations, maybe not to this magnitude, but of teams in any sport trying to just get as much of a competitive edge as they can outside the boundaries of the rules. So is it possible that the Patriots and Antonio Brown colluded together to make this happen? Of course it is. It is 100% possible. Did it actually happen? I mean, there's no way for us to know, at least right now. I would think that I'm not the only one saying that this is a possibility, and I think some people probably believe it more than I do, but I don't know that the NFL could really not investigate this. I'm sure that it has to be on their radar in some way or another. And, you know, what does that mean? Because they can investigate it, but how much can they really do? What smoking gun would they be able to find? Because I would think the Patriots and Brown in this instance would be smart enough going into it that they would want to cover their tracks as much as possible if that is indeed what actually happened. So maybe there's nothing to find. You know? There's no way of us knowing. And it's just something that you really have to just take a minute and think about. Because, I mean, you can look at college teams giving players money to come to their school. I mean, there's plenty of instances in collegiate sports of stuff like that happening. So who's to say that it couldn't happen with the pros? I mean, it could be even something with Tom Brady, that he takes less than market value, and in return he's paid underneath the table. Maybe he mows Mr. Kraft's yard, and he gives him $100 million for it. You know, something silly like that. But it's completely possible. And I just want to throw that out into the universe. And I don't think it is likely. I think, like I said, the most likely thing is that it's all a coincidence. When Brown was made available, the Patriots already knew that they wanted him prior. They talked to him during the trade negotiations, and, you know, they decided that they were willing to take a chance on him. But there is that little creeping thought in the back of my mind that there has to be some sort of foul play here. This is just too coincidental. With all the things that Antonio Brown had done during that Raiders run, the confrontation with Mike Mayock, the not showing up for meetings, the not showing up for practices, the cryotherapy, the helmet issue, the list goes on and on. And it's just wild to think about that you could go from being that head down, worker and hard worker that he was in Pittsburgh when he was drafted there as a 6th-round pick to where we are now. It's honestly crazy to think about. And, that was Antonio Brown's reputation among the Steelers, that, he was one of the hardest workers. And that's why he went from a 6th-round pick to a starting receiver, to a star receiver, to the best receiver in the league. Because he worked hard. He worked his ass off to get to that spot. But to go from that to where we are now, it's just crazy to think about. So, just my thoughts on all this. It's a complete possibility, but I don't think we'll ever know for sure. But it'll be telling, though, when we see what happens throughout the year. Will Antonio Brown's antics suddenly stop? Will there be no more? Will he be tame and follow the New England way? And, will that whole thing, I think New England's theory on taking a chance with guys like Brown is that their culture is a winning culture. And so you can put a dysfunctional piece in there, and the rest of the culture, the rest of the guys in the locker room, and Bill Belichick being the forefront of that, will be able to get the most out of him. But we will see if that rings true here. Will Antonio Brown just be a good Samaritan and play all year long with no trouble, and then go into next year and be a free agent, and, whether he re-signs with New England or not, he gets to be a free agent, which, ultimately is always a big goal for a star player like Antonio Brown, is to just be on the open market and let everyone bid on you. And, right now, the market value for him was going to be so much lower with what had transpired in Oakland that nobody would want to take a chance on him at that point, except for New England. So it's going to be an interesting football season. I'm really looking forward to. We got the Patriots and Steelers Sunday Night Football. And, of course, here on the Terrible Towel Wrap-Up, we'll be here on the YouTube channel to break down that game pretty soon after it ends. Every week we've got NFL picks against the spread. My 5 picks against the spread. I've already posted that one. So far I'm 1-0 with Green Bay winning outright against the Bears. They were 3-point underdogs, so off to a good start. We'll see how the rest of my picks go, and I'll be here to recap it as well as make my next predictions against the spread for week 2 later on in the week. But, until we get to all of that, I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to this, and take care.